I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, September the 6th, and today I'm going to talk about Texhoma, Oklahoma. That sale barn there has been there for 100 years. It was a market that I went to when I was a kid. It was on my dad's circuit there every week. It wasn't far from Clayton, New Mexico, where I lived as a child. And at that time it was owned by Lloyd Goodner, who was an old-time sale barn man. Some of you might have remembered him. He was at Amarillo for a long time, but I don't know how many cigarettes Lloyd would smoke during the sale, but it was the maximum that you could smoke. And in most of the sales you can't even light one up anymore. But I like to talk about all the markets, but I'm always tickled when one of my favorites has a big quote to give, and I've got a lot of quotes to give you because we've been kind of lost on this feeder cattle market here the last week or two, and we've established it once again here on Wednesday. And I'm coming to you from the U.S. Cattlemen's Association meeting up here in Billings, Montana. Going to be sitting on a forum here on Thursday with some other good people and talking about some issues. I want to mention that next week on Tuesday, going to be at Consolidated Beef Producers, CBP regional meeting at Minnetonka, Nebraska. So if any of you are planning on going to that, look forward to seeing you there. But let's get on and talk about what's going on. Talk about the board on Wednesday. October live cattle futures ended the day at down 82 cents at 109.05. Took back most of what they gained there earlier in the week. December down 65 cents to end the day at 113.75. Your feeder cattle contracts were more uneven, and your far outs were actually higher. But October feeder cattle down 35 cents at 151.47. September, there's not a lot of play in it, but it is the spot month, was unchanged at 151.72. Fat cattle trade, of course we don't know what's going to happen yet, but the word on the street was that these packers are a little bit short bought. We talked about that on our last visit, that they may have to kind of come to the table a little bit quicker, and notably the main plant there at Tyson needing some cattle, and 170 was bid pretty widespread, especially up north. And then I think all the packers were calling in at 170. We did end up having some trade, but not enough to establish a market. We're not sure where we're at yet, but Iowa feedlot region sold about 900 on Wednesday morning there at 106, which is disappointing, but 170 to 171, which is steady to a pinch better than what we had last week. Nebraska about 600 heads off from 170 to 171. Notably, last week we did see contract basis trades that were $2.50 to $3 over the fall board there, and that is something that's a positive. If they're wanting to give more than what the board quoting for just down the road, that we know we're on the upswing. We feel like we're on the upswing. Well, I don't know if we've positively put in our lows. If we didn't last week, if it's lower this week, if the board doesn't help out, it could be this week or next. But after that, we're going to be on the uphill. So that's a good thing. Let's look at your box beef cutout values. They were lower on Wednesday. Choice cuts 210.40 down 42 cents. Selects at $200.91 down $1.30. It was on heavy offerings noted though, so that may not be too bad of losses with heavy offerings like that. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. It's a lot more interesting. Real-time index on Beef Market Central late in the afternoon on Wednesday sitting at 151.55. That's up 40 cents compared to Tuesday's close. Your biggest sale had a lighter run. It's been wet around. Everybody was slow getting going this week with Labor Day on Monday, but OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma, just 4,100 head. That'd be a huge run for most places, but that's a light run for them. Feeder steers firm to $3 higher. Feeder heifers were mostly steady and a light test. Dodge City, Kansas, big rains up there. We talked about the flooding on our last visit in Kansas, and they've had heavy rains in Dodge City and surrounding areas. Had a light run, just about 1,000 head, but did note a higher undertone there at Winter Livestock in Dodge City. Bassett, Nebraska had another big sale. That always sets everything on its ear, but you remember we talked about the sale they had 2 weeks ago, which was so high. had about 2,500 head on Wednesday there. They quoted the 9-weight steers from steady to $4 higher than that big sale that they had 2 weeks ago. So that's pretty significant. Look at this automated market report on Cattle Market Central there. You look at some well-tested weight group steers, about 300 head there. Your 9-weight steers average 949 at 150, 106 on the average. Look at the heifers. And the heifers were quoted lower, but they had a lot more heifers than they did steers this past Wednesday, and that's always going to weigh a little bit on the market. But 630 head of the 8-weight heifers averaged 843 at 146.19. Green City Livestock, Green City, Missouri, had a big sale. They can always get the big price for them when they get the right kind in there. They had a load of 905-pound steers bring 154.60. You think that's high? I'm going to give you a quote on some calves out of my old stomping grounds at St. Joe Stockyards. Charlie Sloan cattle, they're well reputation cattle, been in the Angus business for a long time there in Plattsburgh, Missouri. And they were consigned to old cowboy commission man friend of mine, Gary Mann, and good guys there, and they're good friends, him and Charlie, and brought those cattle in. Brought them in quite a bit early. Normally those cattle wouldn't come in until it was about winter time, and they'd be weighing quite a bit heavier, but it's been dry in northwest Missouri, and those cattle had the right kind of condition on them. They come in there. There was a load of 5-weight steer calves. 92 head of them weighed 518 pounds at 192.50. I don't normally like to talk about where those cattle go, but he's got a reputation too. An old neighbor of mine there that sells his yearlings at Lamona, Iowa, and they always ring a bell, and you wonder why they do, because he buys the right kind of calves. And the McCrae's bought those cattle. ML is the man there. You know his son Andrew, who's a market radio guy there and knows a lot about the industry, and that's how you sell the yearlings high. You buy the right kind of calves when you see them with the right kind of condition. Now I want to talk about Texhoma, Oklahoma. You know, sitting in the panhandle of Oklahoma, no man's land, what they call it there. Nobody wanted to claim it when it was time to make states out of everything. Oklahoma took them on, but sitting up there in that dry country, but they've had a good year up there. Every time we're sitting in Amarillo area waiting for those storms to come down the bottom of the Rockies, they would swoop around, and then they'd go back up to the Oklahoma Panhandle, and they've had one of the better years they've had in a long time there. But that sale at Texhoma, owned and ran by Clay Myers, good guy there, grew up the same way I did, grew up in Felt, Oklahoma, in the farm auction business. He was in the ranching business. He's bought cattle, he's ran cattle, he's fed cattle, he's ranched, he's done it all, and he owns Texhoma Livestock Auction. And a nicer guy or a better guy to deal with you'll never find. Don't forget about Texhoma this fall. They're seasonal. That's just the nature of the beast in that part of the country. But that they'll have some good runs, and they'll have some high quality hard cattle in there, and they'll have some really good calves this fall. So don't forget about Texhoma, and get a hold of Clay Myers if you need some of those cattle out of that country. And it's not very far to several big feedlot areas right there. But this week here on Wednesday, they had a big string, mostly black, put together kind of cattle. They're not going to fill all those premium deals or any of those programs, but they're good commodity cattle, mostly black, put together in the Oklahoma Panhandle and the Texas Panhandle, but hard, only grass cattle coming right off the grass Wednesday morning, right into the sale barn, right through the ring. 330 head of them, weighed 865 pounds at $150.10. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.